Hey friends, I just wrapped up teaching my Formation for Ministry class at Duke Divinity, and this term we're focusing on the spiritual discipline of fasting. Now, fasting might bring up a lot of feelings, guilt, performance, confusion, but what if we saw fasting not as punishment, but as preparation? I taught this to my class this week, and I felt like I needed to share it with you too. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has struggled with silence from God, especially when I've been desperate for direction. But Exodus 24 showed me something that I hadn't seen before. And so today we're sitting with Exodus 24. It is one of the most visually stunning and spiritually rich passages in the Hebrew Bible. It's dramatic, it's mysterious, it's sacred, but it's also formational. And so when I think about it, it shows us what it looks like to prepare for an encounter with the divine. That's exactly what fasting is all about. Preparation, not just deprivation. And so let me give you a quick summary of Exodus 24. I'm going to encourage you to take some time and read it on your own. But just in case you're not familiar with the passage, I want to give you a quick summary of what's happening here. So this is the moment when God is formalizing the covenant with Israel, the covenant that was initiated in Egypt. It was confirmed at Mount Sinai, and now it's being sealed in communal worship and obedience. And there are several key moments in this chapter. Here's the first. God calls Moses up the mountain along with Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and about 70 elders, but only Moses is allowed to come near. Secondly, we see that Moses reads the book of the covenant to the people, and they respond with this powerful phrase. You can actually find it in verse 7. And they say, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do, and we will be obedient." And then thirdly, a covenant is sealed with blood. Now, this symbolizes both commitment and consecration. Fourthly, something like rare happens. The elders actually see God. They experience a partial theophany. And so the text says, under God's feet, there was something like a pavement of sapphire stone. That's verse 10. I want you to see this is holy. This is mysterious. It's beautiful. And yet, even after that, they don't go all the way in. But then lastly, Moses goes further. He ascends the mountain. In verse 16, it says, "The glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days." And then on the seventh day, God called to Moses. So Moses is sitting, he's waiting, he's fasting, he's in the cloud. And so as I was thinking about these things, I really have 3 short points that I was able to extract from this text that I want to share with you that I shared with my class. Here's the first point. I see that revelation requires preparation. I'll say that again. Revelation requires preparation. Why do you say that? Well, listen, before God speaks, Moses waits. We see in the text, right? There's 6 days of silence. There's 1 moment of divine voice. Now, that's important because so many of us, we want a word from God, but we don't want to wait for God, right? I know I'm not the only one who's felt that way. Maybe you felt that way. I'll speak for me and a lot of people that I know. And so one of the texts that we're reading in our class, we gave a PDF, but it's called Soul Feast by Marjorie Thompson. I would encourage you to get that book, great book. And she shares how fasting is about making space. It's about clearing out our overstuffed schedules, our bodies, and our minds so that we might be able to hear God's whisper. In other words, I want you to see that fasting isn't just about giving something up. It's about preparing your soul to receive something deeper. Again, our first thought, revelation requires preparation. Here's the second point I want to share with us. The mountain is for the faithful, not the comfortable. The mountain is for the faithful, not the comfortable. Notice who gets invited higher. It's Moses. It's the one who keeps showing up. It's the one who obeys even when it costs him something. Moses is the one who doesn't rush the process. He climbs, he waits, he fasts, he listens. So here's the question that I'm proposing. What if the cloud isn't punishment, but preparation? Sometimes we think that silence means that God is absent, but in Exodus 24, the cloud came before the voice. And so if you feel like you're in a season of waiting or wilderness, maybe it's not a delay. Maybe it's divine preparation. The mountain is for the faithful, not the comfortable. And then here's my last point. I want you to see that fasting is letting go of the lesser for the sake of the greater. Fasting is letting go of the lesser for the sake of the greater. Fasting strips away what numbs us. It forces us to confront things. Things like what? Well, we confront where we've become over-reliant on things like food or screens, people, or patterns. It forces us to confront where we filled the silence with noise instead of deeply listening. It forces us to confront where we've let convenience replace consecration. And yet, God doesn't call us to empty ourselves for the sake of emptiness. God calls us to empty ourselves so that we can be filled. I want you to see that fasting is not a rejection of the body. Thompson writes, she says, it's an invitation to bring the body into harmony with the spirit. So I want you to ask yourself, what am I clearing out so that God can come closer? What kind of word might I receive if I'm willing to wait for it? And to bring it all together, my challenge is this: don't just desire the word of God without being willing to wait for God. The waiting is part of the encounter. The cloud is part of the formation. The silence is sacred. So Moses, he doesn't panic. He waits, he fasts, and on the seventh day, God speaks. Please see that fasting clears space. It creates margin. It removes the noise so we can hear the whisper. It is not a diet. It's a declaration. And here's the declaration. It's simply you stating, God, I want to hear you more than I want to feed my flesh. And so let me ask you this. What if the silence you're sitting in right now isn't punishment? What if really it is preparation? What if your waiting room is actually a training ground? We say we want a word from God, but are we willing to fast, to still ourselves, to sit even when the cloud lingers? Because sometimes the cloud comes before the clarity. Sometimes fasting is what makes us spiritually hungry enough to receive. And so here's the invitation for you. Don't fast to impress God. Fast to be impressed upon by God. Don't fill your days with noise. Let the silence be sacred. Don't rush out of the cloud. Stay in it long enough to be changed. Let fasting be your form of spiritual availability. Hey, if this teaching stirred something in you, I'd love for you to share it, to subscribe to the channel, to drop a comment, or let me know, do you want more insights like this from the classroom? If so, I'd love to bring you into this journey. I hope you enjoyed something that was said. Until next time.